In this video, we have the very unexpected conclusion of me helping a customer upgrade their Amazing Fantasy 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man, from a 5.5 to a 6.0, with an ending that neither of us even remotely expected. And there are so many interesting things about collecting and buying and selling in this video. I'm really surprised at everything that has come up because of this. And even if you're not a Grail buyer or you don't buy books as expensive as Amazing Fantasy 15, I think there's interesting stuff and stuff to learn for every collector in this video. So let me start with just the 30-second recap of how we got here. I've hinted at it previously in other videos, but I'll make this just an all-encompassing, all-in-one video. So customer reaches out. He wants to upgrade his AF15 5.5 to a 6.0. There's a big price difference between a 5.5 and a 6.0. So he sends me his 5.5 and some other big books and a whole bunch of other books, and we sell them. Some of them like on a consignment, and some of them I bought from him outright at certain percentages, just like I normally do. 80% for books over 1,000 and 60% for books under 1,000. And he compiled all those funds to have a big nut with me about $72,000 so that he can buy a copy that was coming up on Heritage. And let's actually go look at that copy. So the 5.5, you can see that the last sale of a 5.5 was around $55,000, and then it jumps up. The last sale, which is talked about in this video, was $81,000 for a 6.0. So a big jump between a 5.5 and a 6.0. But the main reason that he wanted to upgrade it was because of presentation. And that's one of the big interesting things about this is I think that if you are just trying to upgrade books in your collection because of the grade, because of the number on the slab, I don't think that that's necessarily a worthy endeavor. But to upgrade your books in your collection so that they present better, I think that that is a worthy endeavor. You know, to go from AF15 5.5 to a 6.0, I mean, if you're going to spend like 20 grand to do that and the books look the same, or even worse, if the higher grade one actually looks worse, I don't think it's worth the $20,000. But if there's a big difference in presentation, I think, you know, it's worth doing. So something to consider right there is don't just chase better grades, chase better books. That's one of like the biggest things that separates like, you know, a serious seasoned collector from like a newbie is buying the book and not the grade. But it's not something that we all do very well in this hobby, because it is very distracting to see the big number up in the corner no matter how the book looks. So this is the actual copy, and the thing that's so interesting about this is it's the exact same copy, the exact same cert number, the exact same auction house, the same book sold in January. And when it sold in January for $69,000, my customer wanted to get it. He missed out on that. He just didn't have the funds liquid at the time to get that book. And so when he saw, and this is it here, Amazing Fantasy 15 6.0, as you can see, it's a beautiful copy, nice sharp edges, no Marvel chipping. There is a large crease up here in the corner. I mean, it's a 6.0. It's accurately graded, and it's a well-presenting 6.0 at that. It has off-white pages. The exact same book comes up for sale at auction, and he's thinking, well, I have $72,000 in credit. Surely I can at least get it for $72,000. And maybe we get lucky and we get it for a little bit less than $69,000 because it's been 6 months since it sold. Well, no, we didn't even get close to getting it. The exact same book sold for $12,000 more 6 months later, which is odd. It's very odd in this market to see a big jump like that. And so what happened was we got to auction day and it was already past the 72, and my customer, he started to FOMO a little bit. He's like, all right, you know what? Let's just go all in, last bid, highest bid, $80,000. And I said, are you sure? Like, you want to do that? He goes, yes. I go, okay, put in $80,000. He's like, I'll figure it out later. At this point, I already have $72,000 of his money. He's like, I'll send you more money, more books. We'll figure it out. I said, okay, put in $80,000. The live auction comes up and we do not win. We lose out to $81,000. And I tell him, you know, listen, I think you dodged a bullet there. I mean, clearly this book isn't worth 81. I mean, it just sold for 69. And so he goes, yeah, you know what? I'm glad I didn't get it. I got a little bit, you know, carried away with it. I just didn't, I've been without my copy for so long, and, you know, we're not getting any good hits on anything else. It's not easy to find a 6.0 at a fair price, but I am glad that I missed that one. Let's move on to the next. So now I'm going to go through and I'll just put up on the screen the other copies that became available. So I found another copy, a 6.0, from a client of mine who I had just done a deal with, and he offered it up for about 75,000, I think it was. And by the way, this copy that's on the screen is actually still available if you're interested in this, or possibly we can work something out. But as you can see, like, the margins are not there on this book, and it's because, you know, people aren't really, at least in these examples we're going to show here, aren't super motivated to sell it. My client that has this 6.0, like, he doesn't want to sell this 6.0. He's actually the guy that I bought the big collection from, that he used to put on a down payment on a house, and he was trying to do it without having to sell the AF-15. But when this sale came in for 81,000, I think he started to say, well, you know what, I'll take 75 if I can get 75. He's into it for less than that. The interesting thing about this exact copy here is that my client that had the credit with me had an opportunity to buy this exact same book previously, like, I think within a year or so, for I think about $65,000. And so here it is, the exact same book being offered up to him again. It's changed hands since then multiple times. And that's one of the crazy things that has come up from all this. Is I'm going, my client said, oh, I know who he got that from. And I messaged my other client and said, did you get it from so-and-so? He goes, no. So it changed hands twice, I think within a year, this big book. And so it's just so fascinating with these comic book grails, like, how many times do they change hands? And, you know, it's not uncommon for me to sell the exact same book more than once. Back when I first started doing this, I used to put slab stickers on my slab bags. I just stopped doing it because it just took so much time. I actually still have the stickers, but every once in a while I'll get a new collection with a book, a slab in a slab bag with my sticker on it, and I didn't sell it to that person, and so it's made its way around and came back to me. So some fascinating things. It would be really cool to get like some serious data on that, but I think it's kind of hard because of you know, all the ways that they change hands. So he didn't want to go for this 6.0 for 75,000 because I think the biggest reason is that I would have a hard time myself getting over the fact that I was offered the exact same book for $10,000 less not too long ago. But the main reason that he wanted to pass on it was from two things. One, it had a pop staple. So if you go over to the CGC notes, it says that the top staple is detached from the cover, and also that this copy had cream pages. And this is another one of those important lessons from this whole thing is, you know, to each their own. This is a very personal part of the hobby. This is going to be your grail. So you have to decide what type of things can you live with comic book defects. And it's all over the map. I've seen, you know, all different types of customers that will take anything, and people that are super picky, and everything in between. At the end of the day, you have to live with it. But I'll just throw in my 2 cents about how I look at, you know, certain defects with comics. And to me, if you can't see it through the case, I can live with it. So that means page quality. If it's cream pages, I can live with a creamer. Hey, watch it, guys. Now, I'm not going to be able to get that out of my head, but I can live with page quality because you don't see that through the case. And also, like a detached staple, I could live with that because you can't see it through the case, but it has to be your book. So if you can't stand detached staples, even though you can't see it, then by all means, don't go for those books. But sometimes you'll get a book that is like completely detached of both staples and completely split down the spine, but it presents like a 4.0 because like everything else about the cover is really nice. And when you put it in the slab, like you can't see any of that stuff. It just sits in there perfectly, and it might be like a 1.0. And to me, that's just like a little freebie, guys. Like you can get a 1.0 that looks like a 4.0. I think those are just little gems that you come across and awesome things to add to your collection. So we pass on that one. Then I put some feelers out there in a video, and we get offered another copy. It's a 6.0, and he also wanted 75,000, and it didn't present as well as any of the copies we'd seen so far. It had some Marvel chipping and stuff. So I knew immediately that was going to be a hard pass for him. But this is where I start to wonder, did that $81,000 sale send ripples through the community? Like, is that making people think that that's the new price, $81,000? And the answer is no, because these people aren't offering it for 81, but they're offering it between 81 in the last sale, like 75. And so if all the 6.0 owners out there stick to their guns and don't accept less than 75, then maybe 75 is the new price for a 6.0. So it's just a fascinating thing to look at as far as sales. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because I do believe that this sale is a total anomaly just for the fact that it's the exact same book. And so if the next sale comes in for a 6.0 at 69,000, then pretty much what people will be forced to do is just ignore that sale because it's the same cert number. So we pass on that copy. While I got you real quick, if you're watching this the week it comes out and you're wondering where's all the new inventory at Bryce Comics, I'm taking a little bit of time off, but don't worry, I have some massive collections actually already here, already photographed, already ready to go. So make sure you sign up to that newsletter at brycecomics.com. As soon as I get back into town, we're back to business with some bangers. And if you sign up for that newsletter, you're entered to win a free slab. This month we're giving away this valuable slab. And if you subscribe, comment, and like, you're entered to win this valuable slab here for the YouTube giveaway for the month of July. And I am always buying. If you're looking to sell, shoot me a list and I'll shoot you a fast, fair offer and get you paid quick. The next copy that comes up is a signed by Stan Lee copy. I believe it's a 6.0 screen. I think he wanted $90,000 for it. I think it was like a $10,000 to $15,000 premium for the Stan Lee signature. And he asked me, like, man, this would be like the ultimate feather in my cap to have a Stan Lee signed AF-15, like would be unreal. What do you think of the price premium for the signature? And I said, I think it's too much. I mean, I can't see spending 10 to 15. I think it might have been 15 for a Stan Lee signature. I've actually done a video in the past called How Much Does a Stan Lee Signature Add to the Value of Your Book? And it changes depending on the type of book. And for a book like AF-15, it's definitely going to have a way bigger premium than other stuff. But I could see, like, for sure, without a problem, a $5,000 premium for a Stan Lee Sig on an AF-15. But anything over that, that's where you start to get into some tricky waters where it's like, well, how much does the buyer want it? You know, it's not a slam dunk. I think $5,000 is a slam dunk markup, but anything over that, it's going to be, you're going to have to find the right buyer. So he's kind of waning on it and going back and forth. I think he was, leaning towards doing it more because there's just not any other good options for him out there. And then we land on the copy that neither of us would have ever expected him owning, a 7.0 with white pages. And this is his final book. So he found this from a dealer. I wired the dealer all of the funds that he had on hand with me, and they're working out a payment plan for the rest of it. So this is now his copy, and he paid $115,000. I think that $115,000 was actually a great deal for a 7.0 with white pages. White page copies of AF-15s, if you guys didn't know, I think accounts for about 10% of AF-15s. And it's a big deal. Like, it's a huge feather in your cap to have a white page copy of AF-15. And there's some interesting things to note about this. I mean, the last sale was $126 back in 2023. So he got it for less than the last sale. And I would venture to say that $126 was not a white page copy, but without getting too far into it. But a very recent comp for this was a 7.5 white pages that sold for $138,000. And the interesting thing about this $138,000 sale for the white page copy is that I remember seeing this book on Instagram for like, I want to say it was like $190,000. You guys will have to give me some grace here. I'm just working with, ranges, but I know they're really close. It was somewhere around $190,000. And I remember thinking that's way too much for this book. Like, there's no way it's going to sell for $190,000. And lo and behold, it did not sell for $190,000, because see, the last sale before that was $144,000. And that copy was at Heritage and was not a white page copy. So this white page premium just didn't do too much for this book in this auction. But I think that my client's 7.0 white actually presents better than this 7.5 white. So that's why I think the $115,000 was a really good price for the 7.0 with white pages. But the little lesson here on this copy that sold for $138 is, I don't think that this book really should have ever been sent to Heritage. I don't think any AF-15 in like a 7.5 or below really has any business ever being sent to Heritage. This book is so liquid. It's so hot. There are so many people after an AF-15, all the way up to that grade. Once you get past that and you get into like the, $250,000 to $3 million, then maybe you need the help of an auction house. But if you're not finding a buyer for your AF-15 6.5, 6.0, you have it priced too high. That I will just say that much, because an accurately priced AF-15 will instantly sell. I don't think I've ever had one in my shop for more than 24 hours. So in my opinion, rather than price something super high, like 190,000 or whatever for the 7.5 and putting this huge premium on page quality, just be aggressive and list it for a reasonable price, because not only did it only sell for 138, they have to pay the heritage fees, and that could be up to like 35%. I'm sure it wasn't quite that much because it was a big book, but it could be up to that amount. So they didn't get anywhere near 138. And had you just listed it for like, I think maybe 150, I think with the last sale at 144, if you listed it at 150, I think people would have jumped on that, and you would have walked with tens of thousands of dollars more. But I digress. But it is an important point to talk about with this is accurate pricing. You know, I think you're better off being aggressive than sending to Heritage. And for sure, you know, contact me first. I don't need to get rich off these things. If it's an AF-15 7.5, you know, and we can come up with a fair price, like I can take so much less of a cut than Heritage on a book like that. So now for the biggest takeaway and the biggest lesson of this all is, and what's so surprising is that he got a great deal on the book. And it was the first great deal that we saw. Every single book that was offered to us, none of them were at like recent comps. They were all over. And so this one was under recent comps. He got a great deal on it. So what was the big difference? And the big difference was who was selling it. He finally found a dealer that was selling the book that obviously he was into the book less than 115. And obviously he was motivated to sell and he wanted to get out of it. He accepted a payment plan. And so that was the big differentiating factor, is going to all these people that didn't really want to sell was kind of fruitless, you know. And if you do that, you're going to end up paying a lot more than it's actually worth, which might be fine. Maybe it's only 10 or 20% more than it's actually worth, and you keep it for 20, 30 years anyways, and it doesn't really matter. It comes out in the wash, but it sure is a whole lot sweeter to get a good deal on one. So congratulations to my buddy who ended up with one of the nicest copies I've ever seen. I mean, I am super jealous of the 7.0 white pages. I mean, that is one for the ages. That will, you know, be a lifelong book. There's no need to upgrade that. Super happy for him. And I hope that you guys at least found this whole journey interesting. You know, leave a note down in the comments. What surprised you about all of this, if anything, or if you have any questions about the whole process. Thank you as always for sticking with me to the end of the video. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.